All right, so in this section, we learned about the range, standard deviation, and variance, and then also some weighted statistics as well. So we need to make sure we cover how to do each of those in the TI-84 plus, and that's what this video aims to do here. Okay, so I have a couple of example problems. We'll start with the first one here, which is based off of uh, some data which represents reaction times. One thing you want to just check first is if your data represents a sample or population. It should be told to you, like it says right here in this problem, that it's a sample. But if it doesn't say that, just assume it's a sample. That's fine. All right, so we want to work with this data together as a list. So we need to go into the list editor and do that. So stat button and then enter will take you into the list editor. If you already have some things in there, then you can, of course, highlight the name of the list that you want to empty out, press clear, and enter. Then at that point, you can just start typing your data into the list, one item at a time. And it might take a moment, so I'm going to assume that you can do this, pause the video, and come back. Okay, so now that all that data is in, I can now start working with it. So the nice thing about these calculations is that they're still in the same place as all the other calculations we've done so far. So tell you what, let me make this a larger screen to make it easier for you to see. And where do we go next? Our old friend, OneVerstats. So press the stat key, slide over to Calc, and OneVerstats is the first item. Now, when you're using the TI-84 Plus, you should see a menu like this. If not, then you're working in TI-83 mode, which is fine, but you'll want to switch over and watch those videos instead. And it asks for a list of data, which is your data set itself. And then it also asks for a frequency list. So the frequency list is used if you happen to have like grouped data of some sort and you want to calculate based off of a table with group data. That's not the case for us. So if it happens to say L2 here in the frequency list, just highlight it and press delete and get rid of that. So all we want to do is work with the stuff that we just put in L1. Now when we calculate, it will give us a lot of different statistics here. Mean, of course, if you scroll down, you'll get the median. The mode you have to do by hand, of course, but the range, for instance. So it doesn't give us the range per se, but it does tell us the minimum and maximum data entries. So 51 minus 12, you could then just type in that and then get the range that way. So you would then, of course, need to go back into OneVerstats because it always leaves when you start typing in something else. And then you can start getting the other things, like, for instance, standard deviation. So standard deviation, it says here to use 1 decimal, but to 2 decimals, it would be 10.47. To 1, it would be 10.5. Just follow the instructions. It doesn't really make a lot of difference. But just make sure you choose the sample standard deviation, which is SX, as opposed to the population, which is sigma X. Depending, of course, on the problem, some problems require population values if you happen to be using that. So just know which one you need to get. The variance then, the most common mistake I see is students just saying, okay, if the standard deviation is 10.47, then the variance is the other value that I see there, 10.05, and that's incorrect. It's whichever standard deviation you choose, the square of that number is your variance. So in this case, I would just do, say, like 10.47 squared. Now, it's very sensitive to the number of decimal places that you use to square. So try and follow the instructions. Like if you round your standard deviation to 2 decimals, square that one and use that as your answer. Or even better, it would also accept if you used all the decimals that show up there. But it's hard to kind of copy them down because as soon as you type a number in, it erases it off the screen. However, it does keep those values once it makes those calculations in one-var stats. You have to go under the variable menu down to statistics. So these are all the variables used in the statistics mode. And the first set here are the variables involved from one-var stats. So SX is the sample standard deviation. And what's cool is you can reference that entire number. So it stores it to as many decimal places as it has. So when you square that, like I said, you get a slightly different answer here. Sometimes it's a little more sensitive than other changes. So just follow rounding instructions in your homework so you don't run into any issues there. All right, so the next thing that we need to be able to do is work with weighted statistics. Now, weighted statistics, we have grouped data. In this case, we have a set of midpoints grouped together with frequencies. So let's go in the list editor again, so stat and edit. And we need two lists here. So I'm going to clear out what we just used for L1 and for L2. And then start taking the weights that are given over here. These are weights of dogs, it looks like. And find the midpoints of these ranges. So the midpoint of 8 and 23. Remember what you can do is just type in parentheses 8 plus 23 divide 2. And that way you don't have to do the calculation ahead of time and still enter the value that you need right into the list editor. And you can do that for each one, but it gets to be a little bit cumbersome typing all those in. So if you do the first two and subtract them, then that will tell you the class width. So 31.5 minus 15.5 is 16. And if you just continually add 16, you can get the rest of your midpoints that way. All right, so then 63.5 plus 16, that would be 79.5. But however you get your midpoints, that's the first step in the process. The next step is to enter your frequencies over in L2. So just slide over to L2 and start putting those in. And after you're done, you're ready to do your calculations. So when you press stat, well, actually, let's quit out of the list editor. It's usually safer to quit things and go back to the home screen first. And let's hit stat, slide over here to calc, and one-var stats. So this again comes up as a menu. And actually, I'll make that a little bigger now so we can see the results better. But we have information on where the list of unique values in our data set are, and that's in L1. Those are the midpoints. The frequency list, that is L2. So here we need to type in second and 2. Don't use the alpha keys. Like if you do alpha L and then the number 2, that means something different. Like the combination of this L with a subscripted 2, that's how it knows you mean list 2. So hit second and 2, that is. And that tells the calculator that the values in L2 are the frequencies for which the values in L1 happen. So now just hit calculate, and we'll get the results that we need here. So the weighted mean is listed first, 52 or 57.28. And then the standard deviation, I think this was based off of a sample. Let me see here. Yeah, right there. So it's a sample. So we would use SX again for this one. So that's the sample standard deviation. Had it been a population of values, we would have used sigma X.